Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Sunday, October 6, 2019. In the headlines today, Jimmy Carter, who just became the first U.S. president to make it to age 95, reportedly he needed stitches after falling at his home. But he traveled to Nashville, Tennessee anyway. And here's what I want you to see about this story. Again, when you learn this knowledge of letters and numbers, which comes from Kabbalah, which is Gematria, you start to see how the news and the world of sports is an interconnected web. First of all, keep in mind this news story comes on the day leaving 86 days left in the year. 2 celebrity sacrifices by the numbers today. 86th to get rid of. But here's the thing, Jimmy Carter, he just turned 95 years old 5 days ago. 95 years old 5 days ago. And we're going to get to why that matters. Braves equals 95. I'm going to show you how this connects with today's baseball game, the day of this news. The MLB playoffs. Notice Jimmy Carter sums to 54 and 162. Baseball sums to 54 and 162. And if you write out Major League Baseball using the alphabetic order, it also sums to 162. Special numbers here that relate to the game. 54 outs in a complete game of baseball. Now, Jimmy Carter was the 39th president, and he was from Georgia, just like the Atlanta Braves. And in light of him being the 39th president, the Atlanta Braves now play in Cumberland, which sums to 39. Tonight's game was not in Cumberland, it was in St. Louis. But tonight, the Braves came back and won with 3 runs scored in the 9th inning, down 0-1 coming in. 3 runs in the 9th, and then you get a headline about Jimmy Carter falling and hitting his head. And again, Jimmy Carter just turned 95 years old. Braves equals 95. He got stitches today. Stitches equals 31. And look at the score of the game, 3-1. We won't even talk about the 7 hits versus 4 hits. 3-1. And for the person out there who's going, well, show me something before the game's played, well, you should sign up for my Patreon because some people won big today. Notice the Braves and the Cardinals. ESPN doesn't move their lines around a lot. ESPN's lines will be different than everybody else's if you pay attention. And it's because ESPN signals things. The line was negative 117 to Atlanta. Mike Soroka, the starting pitcher, equals 117, and we've documented this before in other postseason games. When the line is pointing to a certain pitcher's gematria on ESPN, it's been a good sign for those teams. And the other thing I pointed out about today's games is Atlanta was 5-3 versus the Cardinals for 2019. If they won, they'd be 6-3. Cardinals equals 63, Major League equals 63, Major League Baseball equals 63, Mike Soroka equals 63, plus, as I wrote about down here with the pitchers, today was 63 days after Mike Soroka's birthday. So very strong riddle. And for people who are new to my Patreon page and haven't learned how to read my notes, I mean, you guys, my notes are very logical. Look at them. What have I written on the screen? You know, I've given you information here. I'm showing you this perfect pattern with 63, and then plus it's 63 days after Soroka's birthday. So what am I communicating that is the likely outcome of this game? Of course, that things look very good for the Braves. This is how it is day after day. You read these numbers, and a lot more often than not, they lead you to the right place. In the other baseball game, it was a tougher call today, but if you follow my Patreon live stream, I say they start these games at awkward times, and oftentimes if the start time, the minute after, connects to one of the 2 teams in the Gematria, for example, Dodgers equals 45, it's a good sign for those teams. And here, just look at who won today's games. We know the Braves won 3-1, and the Dodgers won 10-4, just like how the Yankees won 10-4 on October 4th to get their 104th win of the season. And this year, my dad, who's been listening to me talk about this for years, he's really catching on, and for the first time, he's calling me and pointing out things and going, I can't believe it. Yankees are his favorite team. We're from Portland, neutral territory, but you know, it's like, man, 104th win, 10-4 on 10-4. He's like, yeah, just like that Mets score, 9-11 on 9-11. So anyway, it's about following redundant patterns. In hockey today, there were 3 games. We'll get to the NFL in just a moment if that's what you're here for. But in the hockey today, 3 games, right? The first 2, there wasn't really anything screaming out, but here's what my notes say for the third game. This looks like the best riddle of the day for the NHL, and here's what I'm communicating. Islanders can pick up 78th points versus Jets all time. In hockey, there's a point scoring system. They're playing in New York, which makes sense because New York equals 78. It would make more sense to get those 78th points against the Jets in New York than it would in Winnipeg. And it's just like how the other week on Monday Night Football, Browns and New York Jets, with a win, Mayfield was going to be 7-8 in New York in Odell Beckham's old building. Cleveland equals 78 as well as New York. Sunday is also the day of the week that equals 78. So this made a lot of sense. Plus the Islanders have become 1-1 on the season. New York's the 11th state. Pointing out that if the Jets lost in overtime, which they didn't, they would have been 1-1 and New York's 1-11. So that was another reason to believe that the Jets were most likely to lose in this game. And this is what this knowledge is about. You can go through each day. You can decipher the key variables. Sometimes it's not clear. But usually, there's a game that stands out, like this one. In the NFL today, we dominated. We've done a lot of domination of the NFL in the world of sports since I began putting this knowledge out to the masses years ago. Our futures record is unmatched in the history of the world. You can't find anybody else who's dominated futures like I have in the last 5 years. It's not out there. It's never happened before. That's why the people who criticize my work, these are clueless people who don't appreciate something that is truly invaluable. Dumb people don't appreciate this work. And you know what? Out of about 6 people who find my work, about 5 stick around. That 6th person, well, I don't want to be rude, but we know what the score is there. And that's just the reality of humanity. So anyway, let's just go through the games this week and talk about how we picked them. Rams, Seahawks, Thursday Night Football. There were riddles on both sides. Some games are tough to call, but there was a great stat going for the Seahawks. It had to do with the death of Paul Allen, who was honored before the game. The Seahawks could become 9-1 on Thursday Night Football under Pete Carroll. Again, last year, Paul Allen's death came right after Pete Carroll became the winningest coach in Seattle Seahawks history. In a ritual by the numbers that was even synced up with Mike Holmgren, who we surpassed. But the Seahawks had a chance to become 9-1. CenturyLink Field, where they play, equals 91. Allen equals 91. Paul Gardner Allen, his full name, also 91. He was honored before the game. The former owner, Paul Allen, who died last season, the day after Pete Carroll became the winningest coach, getting his 82nd win with Seattle. Seattle equals 82. And if you're thinking, whoa, the Seahawks could have dropped to 8-2, that is what makes this stuff tricky sometimes. So, and that's documented right here. But still, the reason we like Seattle in the end was because Russell Wilson was going for his 8th straight win on Thursday Night Football. 19 is the 8th prime number, and we've been documenting streaks of 8 all year in sports, and it's been helping us a ton. Helped us call the Seahawks to win this game as they did. Cardinals and Bengals. You just had the death of Bill Bidwell by the numbers, the Cardinals owner. And there was a streak of 8 in this game. Through the head-to-head, it looked good for Cincinnati here. Through the head-to-head, it looked pretty good for Cincinnati. But there was an important streak. Dalton, if he was going to lose, which he did, he would get his 8th loss in a row starting games. His 8th loss in a row starting games. That's what happened. The Bengals lost today at home to the Cardinals. And keep in mind the Cardinals just became 1-3-1 because they used to be in St. Louis and now 1-3-1. Championships 131. World Series is 57. When you write out 57, it's 131. So you really got to keep an eye on that. Baseball is so hard this year. This is the hardest year of baseball. Keep in mind St. Louis is the only city that sums to 115, though, and it's the year of the 115th World Series. But baseball this year is a mother, especially like with the thing with Jimmy Carter today. It's just that's how the year's been. Just like, it's like, how do you choose? But anyway, on this game I stayed neutral because the head-to-head looks so good for the Bengals, but that streak of 8's been almost unbeatable this year. And a lot of my followers, they went with the Cardinals because they've been winning all year on the 8's. So I just said for me it was a little close, but because there's been a few streaks where the 8 hasn't hit. It's been a high percentage where they have, so it's like, could this be one where it doesn't come through? I don't know. The death of Bill Bidwell, the head. So anyway, can't call them all. This was the one game that we got wrong today. The Bills and Titans. And the reason I got it wrong is kind of because I'm an idiot. There wasn't a real clear narrative here. I just thought I had the right gut call on this one, and I didn't. There wasn't a lot of strong number support. So dumbest pick of the day. And a lot of my followers today, they had together big monster parlays, and they lost on the Titans. And I shouldn't say a lot. Some of them did, and they complained about it. And I thought, well, you guys got to listen to the live stream, because I explained that there wasn't a lot behind this Titans pick. So if you're going to put together a 10-team parlay and 9 out of 10 hit, and the one that didn't hit is the Titans, the word is greed. The word is greed. You would have left the Titans off there, which we said wasn't that strong of a pick, you would have won. I mean, why risk it on that? Anyone who watched the live stream, I was very clear. I said, the Titans, there's not a lot behind it, but I just think they're going to get it done. So, Bears at Raiders, game we liked a lot. The Raiders looked very good today. The Bears could fall 3-5 at the Raiders, even though the game was in London. That was one thing, but then you also had that Carr could get his 35th win because Chicago equals 35, so falling to 3-5 at Chicago, Carr getting the 35th win, plus Gruden could get his 45th win with the Raiders. Bears equals 45, so does John Gruden, and he stayed on 95 career losses at the stadium in London, which equals 95. This is a big ritual here for John Gruden. Bucks and Saints, this was probably the easiest call of the day. 19-date numerology. Saints got the Bucks got their 19th loss at the Saints. The Saints got their 19th win at home versus the Bucks. Saints equals 19-date numerology, plus Winston got his 19th away loss. So you see how nicely that lines up? These are the games that you live for. These ones are the ones that will rarely fail you. If you're real patient with this knowledge, if you're not trying to, just go at every game, because you can't pick every game right. Well, maybe someday you can when this gets evolved far enough, because there's still more to learn here. But we know enough to find really safe games. There's a gentleman, his name's Rod. He's been following me since last Super Bowl, and he calls in a lot. Calls in a lot to the daily live stream. Him and other people too, but Rod, I just know Rod's been there every day listening, calling, contributing, and now he's so grateful because he's never won like this before. He's never been up like this before. And not just Rod, but, Rod's someone who calls in every day and invests time. That's why I'm mentioning him. The Vikings and Giants, people who watched my live stream last week, I said the Vikings would win this game. And that ended up happening. What's funny is sometimes I overanalyze and I get gun shy. And I became neutral on this game. Waiting to see what they're going to do with this Daniel Jones kid. But I should have just stuck with it. Anyway, so I didn't make a pick on that one today. Jets and Eagles, looked like it was going to happen for the Eagles. What I advise people is if you put together a small parlay, because the thing is with this knowledge, you can turn $5 into $500, if you hit on enough teams. You could put together a 7-team parlay with the Jets in there on an upset on $5, and you could turn it into $500, and people do that. So I told people, if you're going to put together one of those types of bets, you can use the Jets as a big multiplier, but they're definitely a long shot today. Eagles were trying to improve to 3-2. Eagles is 32. Good team at home versus a lousy team. That's a real long shot. So you got to see it for what it is. But the reason the Jets had a prayer is because if the Eagles lost today, the Eagles have never lost to the Jets. They became 11-0 today. Had the Eagles lost, they would have been 10-1 against the Jets, and Philadelphia is 101. So this is what can make taking a little small risk on a game like this worth it. Chance the Jets pull it out, your parlay hits, your $5, which you're probably not going to miss that much, now paid for, the next month's of groceries, maybe more. Ravens and Steelers, this was another game I had to sit on, and that means not make a call on. It's because Jackson had a chance to become 9-3 in the regular season, 93 days from his upcoming birthday, which looked good. But Harbaugh had a chance at his 81st all-time loss, and Pittsburgh Steelers is 81. So it's like, oh, man. When the QB and the coach are in agreement, like it was with the Raiders game, Harbaugh and Carr, great sign. When they contradict each other, it's tough. More often than not, if there is a contradiction, what it says for the QB will be what comes out. And this is what I teach people, but still, I like to put together the safest picks. There was a little risk there. And usually when it riddles tight like this, a game's very tight, as the Pittsburgh and Steelers game was that went to overtime today. Patriots and Redskins was probably the easiest call of the week. we've been calling it since before the season began. We saw that the Patriots should start 5-0, which made calling their first 5 games pretty easy because they become 5-0 against Washington, the most 50 team in the league. Washington equals 50. It also equals 229. Washington Redskins 229, the 50th prime. Brady's 50. So, that was just one of those good night type of riddles. That and the Saints won. Very easy. Jaguars and Panthers. In this game, it agreed with both sides with the coaches. If the Panthers won, Marrone would get his 73rd loss, Carolina's 73, and oh, hold on. No. I misspoke. Marrone would get his 38th loss versus the Panthers. Panthers is 38. And Rivera would get his 74th win, Jacksonville 74, and his 77th all-time win, Jaguars 77. So, great agreement on both sides with the coaches. And also, Allen improved to 4-0. Week 5 equals 40. So, that was a good sign for him. Falcons and Texans. This was a game that I had right with my initial thought. I thought the Texans were going to take it and improve to 3-2 to play Kansas City because Kansas City's 32, Chiefs is 32, Houston's 32. You ended up having 32 combined points in this game. And, by the way, the John Gruden 45th win, 45 combined points in that game. It's like that with a lot of the scores if you look at them. If you look at the codes that we're looking at, the numbers for the day, it's oftentimes what the scores are. All of sports. So anyway, I thought that looked pretty good because in history, the Dallas Texans became the Kansas City Chiefs. So this connection now between Houston and who was the big star tonight in the Colts game? Houston, right? Who's from Kansas City. Telling you they're farming and naming these people accordingly. Eli Apple changed his name in college, gets drafted to the Big Apple. Anyway. Should have just stuck with that, but sometimes my callers make really good points that take me off my picks, and more often than not, when I come off it, I end up thinking, man, I should have just stayed with my thought. But this is what happened. A caller noticed that if Matt Ryan won his next 2 games, which would have included beating Houston and Arizona, who they play next, they'd be 105 and 75. He'd be 105 and 75 in the regular season. Arizona's 105. Arizona Cardinals is 75, which is true. And I was like, man, you're right. It could end up being that way. It's like, man, but Houston looks so good today. And then Houston kicked their ass. And I was like, that's the thing. Sometimes you outsmart yourself. It's best to just, if there's a good clue in the immediate game, it's best to just go with that clue. Sometimes you want to look down the road, though, because there can be things that surprise you. But still, the immediate thought, the initial thought was right. Broncos and Chargers. Now, this game was super interesting. We talked about how the Broncos could pick up their 100th win today. Or not their 100th win, excuse me. Their first win of the 100th season 100 days after John Elway's birthday. John Elway, who played for Baltimore and Denver, just like Flacco, who just came over this year. Broncos looking for their first win. And we talked about how last year the Broncos beat LA in LA. And that was on the 322nd day of the year, 3-2-2. And today's rematch in LA was exactly 322 days later. And Chargers had a narrative to improve to 3-2 because Denver and Broncos are both 32. But the other thing was the Broncos had lost 8 straight in the regular season. And look, that streak of 8 just got snapped, right? Again, streaks of 8 continue to go to 8 and end at 8 all through 2019. 19's the 8th prime, plus today had 19 date numerology. So the Broncos ended their 8-game losing streak. You know, you get this 3-2-2 ritual, the number of Yale schools of the year. Broncos equals 86. They get their first win. Melvin Gordon III makes his return. His name equals 86. You just see how scripted it all is for him to return on this day. And anyhow, so for this game, the one thing that made me not super confident, it was all there though. These streaks at 8, they've been so good. It's good to ride the streaks at 8, which is what I talked about in the video. Rivers had a chance at his 68th home win. Now what's tricky is because there's 4 base ciphers, sometimes things like this happen. It doesn't happen with a lot of cities, but there's cities like Denver. Denver's 68 and 67. So it's like, does he stay on 67 or does he pick up 68 against Denver? But a lot of my followers, Broncos were a great payout today. They thought it was well worth the risk, and they were rewarded. And again, that's why I present the information and I just tell people what I would do. I'm real conservative. I try to be super safe, but and sometimes even though I'm presenting the same information, I know how strong the streaks at 8. Sometimes it's like, well, this could be the one where it doesn't happen. But the reality is, if you just keep betting these streaks at 8, you're probably hitting on at least 80% of them, at least for this season. So there it is again. 3 times in 1 week we've already gone over in the games we've covered. Packers at Cowboys. I liked the Packers a lot in this game because of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers got his 113th all-time win today. Dallas equals 113. He became 46-46 away. Dallas, Texas equals 46. He became 41-41 away in the regular season. These stats are with the playoffs. These are just the regular season. Dallas 41, Green Bay 41, Rodgers 41, Week 5 41. So, that was just... it's just like you couldn't get any more Dallas with your stats with a win. So, somebody called in yesterday and pointed out that yesterday when we did this live stream that 80% of the money was on the Packers to win. But by game time today, the money was close to 50-50. And I told people, even though the money's heavy on Packers, Vegas doesn't pay out. I think Vegas does flip games a lot when money's super stacked, but they still pay out on some because if they didn't, it would be too obvious to people that the public never won. Everyone would just bet by going against the public all day. And that's what happened with the late money on the Cowboys, because there was a lot of money bet on this game, and all the people who came in late went against the public. But this is where you want that knowledge. This is where you'd be like, even though I don't know if I'd go against the public in this game, because Aaron Rodgers looks like he is golden, and he won. So, Colts and Chiefs. Now, this game, this is how you can just see how perfectly sports are scripted. My advice for this game was to take Colts to cover. Saw there was a chance they could win this game, but the Chiefs had a good narrative too. But the Colts were a big underdog. 11 points is a lot in football. The money stayed on 80% on the Chiefs, so Colts to cover was the smart call here. It's what was advised. And the thing was the Chiefs could improve to 5-0, right? And by the way, before I even talk about this, did you guys catch the score at halftime? It was 10-13. And look at the Tequila Casey bar, which I said would be a Super Bowl clue. Super Bowl equals 41, like how the Chiefs fell to 4-1 tonight. But the address of this bar, 10-13, and then you get a score 10-13 at halftime. It's like, what? What? If you missed my video earlier, the name of the bar equals 120, and it's a span of 120 days to the Super Bowl. And if you look at Jacoby Brissett, ESPN called this the year of the black quarterback. Since then, it's become the year of the backup quarterback. And when ESPN did that article, the year of the black quarterback, they showed Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson of Baltimore. What's interesting is the Colts are originally from Baltimore, right? And you got this big riddle on this same day with Elway and Flacco and Baltimore and Denver. AFC West, like the Chiefs. On this same day, the Chiefs fall to 4-1, the Super Bowl number. Jacoby Brissett, though, what's interesting about him is, and remember, Elway was drafted by the Baltimore Colts. They were in Baltimore back then. Class of 83, football's 83. Anyway, Jacoby Brissett, the Super Bowl's on his 54th day of his age. It's Super Bowl number 54. And backup equals 54. If you missed the work I did when Andrew Luck retired, we showed how it was perfectly synced with Jacoby Brissett. And Andrew Luck, before he retired, had a super alignment with the Super Bowl, so it just makes me go, The Colts improved to 3-2 tonight. Kansas City 32, Chiefs 32, NFL 32, America 32, 32 teams. Scottish 32. But anyway, tonight's game. So the Chiefs had an argument for 5-0. Colts had a narrative for 3-2, and the Colts face Houston next week. Again, the Houston team's now the Texans. In history, the Dallas Texans became the Kansas City Chiefs. If they were going to win, they were going to go into Houston 3-2, just like how Houston's 3-2 now. See how it all comes together? But there were some things here. So the last time, hold on, where did I put those notes at? So right here, the last time these teams played each other was January 12th, 2019. Andrew Luck lost in that game. Andrew Luck equals 112. Horseshoe 112. Houston 112. Andrew Luck played his high school ball in Houston. His father played for the Houston Oilers. Anyway, from that playoff game to today's rematch was 267 days later. And consider that the coach of the Chiefs and the coach of the Colts both came from Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the 267 area code, and Indianapolis Colts equals 267. So you see there's these deep riddles. The way all this stuff's coded out and thought out. That's why there's still more to learn, because I'm just like, I wonder if there's something greater to understand about 267 just beyond how it connects to the teams. But anyway, that was very curious. And then it was there for the Colts record. And today Brissett got his 8th win, right? His 8th career win, and today had 19 date numerology. 19 date numerology. How many points did the Colts win with today? You know, how many points did the Colts win with today? They won with 19. Whoops, I'm going to the wrong thing. $45 points. Bears 45. John Gruden 45. He got his 45th win with the Raiders by the numbers. Today had 55 date numerology, 55 combined points here. 38 points in this game. Minnesota equals 38. Giants equals 38. Sonny Michel scored the 26th points of this game, number 26, who helped the AFC win its 26th Super Bowl last year, 351 days after his birthday, the 26th triangular number. Tom equals 33. Some of these scores I'd have to think about them more. Atlanta, Georgia's 85. You got 85 points in that game. 33. 58 points, Freemasonry, 58, the capital G, the logo of Freemasonry. But then there's the Colts, 19 points, right? 32 combined points, Kansas City 32, Chiefs 32. Colts improved to 3-2. They just couldn't stop that ground attack. I see Mahomes had 39 pass attempts. That's what I'm always telling people about. Every single week they have a 39 SNF ritual. SNF, easy. That's why I encourage people to learn the letters, remember them. Remember what the letters are in numbers. S is the 19th letter. N's the 14th. F's the 6th. 19 plus 14 plus 6 is 39. Every week, they just can't stop it. Last week at halftime, it was 39. The small way, SNF is 12. S becomes 1. It's the 19th letter. S. 19 is 1 plus 9 is 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. Numerology. Make each letter a single-digit number. N. The 14th letter. 1 plus 4 is 5. F, the 6th letter. So 1 plus 5 plus 6, 12. Last week, the Saints won with 12 points. And they got their 12th win with Carl Sheffers as the head coach. Usually more screams out to me about the halftime stats. Or the final score stats, but the 39 attempts sure stands out. So anyway, it's just the same thing week after week. So here was my advice. Again, at the bottom of every single notes, I'll advise what I'm thinking. So I was leaning towards Chiefs winning, but I said Colts would be a great parlay multiplier, which a lot of people took me up on. And I said the right decision is to take the Colts to cover. So that means the Colts had to lose by 11 or less. And since they won the game, you won the bet if you took my advice. So the only game that we got wrong today was the Titans game, which I really kicked myself for because for the greedy people, they threw it in there as their extra multiplier. And had I left it off, we would have had a flawless day. You know, there was a baseball game we really liked. Correct. There was a hockey game we really liked. Correct. Football games, on all the games we made picks on, all correct except for one. And for all the potential upsets, for the multipliers, all of them hit except for the Jets. So, you know, again, I charge $5 a month, not because this knowledge is worth $5 a month. Sometimes I wonder if I charge like $200 a month, which honestly I think would be a fair price for all that you get with my sports content. I mean, you get countless hours a week, tons of correct picks, you know, a lot of people made several $1,000s today. For information that you can make several $1,000s on in a day, and if you go to my Patreon page, you'll notice it's full of trolls. Realize those people work for the alphabet agencies. They're not legitimate. They're just liars, sociopaths. The reality is when I have a bad day, it's usually I'm right around 500, you know. Some days I do have bad days. They don't happen very often. I have a lot more winning days. Usually we have a winning day, you know. Some days I want to do even better than I do, but we have a lot of great days too. So if you just consistently win, or worst, you're breaking even, and then when these days come through where we just smash, you know, that's called a successful formula, you know, that improves with time. So, but here, I want to tell you about when I do have bad days real quick. I want to tell you what happens to me. So yesterday I didn't have a bad day. Yesterday between my college picks, baseball, and hockey, I was still above 500, but the trolls are all over me because my hockey picks, because I clued into a riddle that went south in each game, it hurt. And so here, you know, I'll put up notes, but I'll talk about which ones look good. So the Capitals were up 2-0 yesterday late in the third period. And this is a true story. Guy calls me up and he thanks me for the pick. He says, "Thanks, man. Those Capitals are coming through. I'm going to win big on them today." And I wish he hadn't done that because there was like 8 minutes left in the game. And the Capitals ended up losing 3-2. And that's happening a lot in sports. Sports are getting crazier and crazier. Usually in hockey, if you're up 2-0 midway through the third period, you're not going to lose the game. But in recent times, baseball, hockey, all these sports, because of all the live gambling and everything, things are changing. And anyway, this guy called and thanked me for the game early. The Capitals looked good to me to win yesterday because they could have stayed on 54 regulation losses on a 54 day. Their name equals 54. And the Hurricanes could have picked up their 87th loss versus the Capitals in regulation on the day leaving 87 days left in the year. And they were on their way to doing that. But then late, the game changed. Very late. From down 2-0 to winning 3-2. So if you don't follow hockey, there's only 3 periods. So midway through the third period is near the end of the game. Anyway, so that hurt. A lot of people like this game. They saw the same thing as me. The Penguins game looked great yesterday. Here, let me show you what the score of the Penguins game was. I want you to see things. Because, I mean, this stuff goes on every single day. When you have this knowledge, you see even the games you're wrong on. You're like, but man, they still hit those numbers. And we weren't wrong about the Penguins game. But I just want you to see the score of the Penguins game yesterday. A lot of scoring in this game. You had a score of 2-7. 2-7 on a date with 27 numerology where we like the Penguins. See, here's what we wrote in the notes before the games were played. Penguins can pick up 27th win over Blues on 27 date numerology. A Penguins win would give them their 58th points versus the BJs all time. That's the Blue Jackets. Pittsburgh equals 58. Makes sense to pick up those 58th points in Pittsburgh. And I point out there's also a narrative for the Blue Jackets to lose in overtime with the points, so that also suggests that they will lose, which makes the Penguins look good for the win. So Penguins get the W there, and they win 2-7. Okay? Next game, Stars at the Blues. I point out, Blues won the 101st Stanley Cup. A win today would make them 1-0-1, symbolic. Blues went on to win the game. They won 3-2. So far, so good. But remember, the 87 game, you know, instead of being 3-0, we're 2-1 on the day, right? And this game looked good. And the thing is, what I've noticed about my notes is when I write things real explicitly, if there's a game I like more than others, I notice a lot of time that game doesn't come through, and I get real suspicious about that sometimes. The Red Wings and Predators. The Red Wings got an upset here. We talked about some possible narratives for the Predators to lose. Wasn't real clear, but the narrative was there. The Predators could have fallen to 1-0-1 with an overtime loss. I forgot to write the rest of that note there, how that connects to Detroit. Anyway, the Bruins and the Coyotes. I was thinking the 87s were going to play because this was the day leaving 87 days left in the year. Coyotes equals 87. You just saw the death of Bill Bedwell on 10/2. Coyotes is 102. They're looking for their first win. Just like why the Cardinals had a good shot today. And Coyotes had lost 14 straight to the Bruins. So often when streaks are at 14 in sports, they end. A lot more often than not. So going with the law of averages, this looked good for the Coyotes. Bruins equals 43, the 14th prime and 14. Well, the Coyotes ended up losing this game. The Coyotes had also lost 8 straight, and this is where the majority of the 8 streaks are hitting, but some aren't. But the Coyotes had a lot of things here that looked good, so I was really surprised about this. And the thing is, had these 87 riddles come through for hockey, we would have had an awesome day yesterday. We've had a lot of good days. Sometimes I think, like, with all the trolls and whoever they work for, sometimes I think they're like, okay, we can't let them have this. This work's going to go too viral. Anyhow, the other one was another 87. So this hurt me because the 387 riddles I got in on, because they've been good already from the start of the year, looking at when things synced up with the days left in the year, it had been good up until this day. This is the day where it burned. So the Kings had a chance at their 87th win and to stay on 87 regulation losses. And we're talking about versus the Oilers all time. On this day leaving 87 days left in the year, where in the early part of the season, these riddles have been coming through. Well, the Kings lost by a goal. And so that was 3 games in hockey where we went on the 87 and none of them hit, which is surprising. But some days this happens. And this ended up making the day closer to 50-50 instead of a very great day. So, and then you can go read all the trolls saying what a horrible day we had. It's like, horrible day? We had some good calls today. You know, we had a lot of good wins. And so anyway, had the 87s come through, would have been a great day. But this happens, and this is the risk, and this is why I tell people who follow my work, just play with the plan every single day. Set yourself a budget. Don't get crazy if you lose. Just realize, stick with the plan. You're going to win a lot more days than not. You know, worst days are usually somewhere around break-even days, which is all true. And yesterday, if you took every pick I put out yesterday, you won. But you didn't win a lot. Today, if you took every pick I did and did parlays, you won a ton of money like a lot of people did. So that's the reality of this work. But what happens is, I'm going to tell you more about this story. And if the gentleman's out there listening, you know, I feel really bad about what happened. The man who called me up early about this game, he's won a bunch of money. He's doing great. And he's saying, like, I can pay all my bills with all the money that I win off your picks. And this man, sometimes I worry a little bit because he had a tragedy in his life about a year ago. And he reached out to me and let me know what was going on. His wife passed unexpectedly, not that old. And he has a family, and he's trying to support his family now without the wife around. And he's been helping make extra money with the sports picks. And, you know, he got greedy in the last week. There were some games that I wasn't real crazy about, but I leaned a certain way. And this is what I hate. When I explain to people that games I'm not crazy about, and I probably wouldn't bet it myself, but I'm leaning this way, some people who follow me, they just want to bet every day. And they're betting big because they're mostly winning. So he went on a game that I wasn't crazy about, and he lost. And he lost quite a bit. And I'm thinking, man, why are you losing so much on that game? That's not the game. Be patient. But then because he lost it, he wanted to go out and bet more and go big again. And he lost again. And anyway, he ended up losing a bunch of money in a short period of time. And he's still way ahead, but I mean, he just gave a bunch back because he got mad, and then just one loss piled up after the next. And so he was trying to win it back on the Capitals game yesterday, and it was looking good. But he called and he got, well, I mean, but this is just kind of the way the world is too, right? Never celebrate prematurely. Never. I don't care even if you think you have no control over the hockey game. I mean, to me, it's just like the way the world works. I've noticed that's the way the life is to me. Even though I'm not in the hockey building, it's 1,000 miles from me, I start celebrating before I've won. That's when I've like cursed myself. And some people are like, oh, superstition, hocus pocus. I don't know. There's just something about the way this world is. Doing things the right way and getting rewarded for it. Celebrating prematurely is not one. But he was assuming at that point, because the 87 riddle was good, should he go in on the Kings one too? And I said, well, the 87 riddles look good. Let's hope the Capitals hang on here and close out the game. But I said, I really like those 87s today. And, you know, so what he ended up doing was losing more. And, again, if you're like in a stretch where you're just like betting big and trying to get your money back because you're mad about how much you just lost, I mean, just sit back and look and go, okay, Look, I've won, 20-some thousand this year. Okay, I just screwed up the last 2 days. I lost 2,000. You know what? Let me just chill out. Let me take a few days off. Let me get over the stress of this. Realize that I'm still doing good for the year and start making some common sense decisions, some pressure decisions, just trying to get that money back. Because that's how the casinos win. They know that that's the mentality of the gambler. If they get hot and they go on a winning streak, eventually they're going to end up giving it back, because when they start to lose, they try to earn it all back at once, and they keep making bigger and bigger bets until they lost their whole roll. If you just stay smart with the plan and stay conservative each day and give yourself a budget today, your budget might be $5, it might be $100, whatever you can afford. And for those of you guys, there's people who I don't think have a lot of money but win a lot because they are ballsy and they're smart with this. But I mean, really, you can make a good amount of money each day if your $5 parlay hits. $5 is a fair budget for this knowledge. If you made your goal trying to win 50 each day off 5, it's very possible, if you're selective and smart and take the time to go through the games and the riddles that are out there. That's the way that I really advise people to bet, because that's the way you can actually get up without, throwing away a few $1,000s in a few days because you got mad that you lost on the game that you shouldn't have bet on in the first place, and then you just keep betting, trying to get it back each game. So I want to close by saying that too, because honestly, I don't think gambling's a good thing, but I know a lot of people, they do need extra money, and this is a way that you can get that extra money if you're smart and not greedy. Okay. So anyway, you just pay attention how often stuff like this happens. You document the 27s. Next thing you know, the score's 2-7. It's a lot of goals in a hockey game. Big ritual there. So let me check out what's going on in the chat. Nick K says, anyone know how they script UFC? The same way they've scripted fighting since the 1800s. I can't believe people are asking that in 2019. I mean, I don't understand a question like that, Nick K. I don't mean to be an asshole, but how do they script a fight? Hey, guys, go beat the shit out of each other, but make sure you go down in the 5th round. I mean, same way they've done it for the last 200 years. I give you $10,000, I stick it in your waistband, I say, Nick K, you're out there tonight, I know you can beat that guy's ass, but you better be down in the 5th round, otherwise you're going to have a bullet in your head instead of $10,000 in your waistband. Who's got the next question? Do they rig these games by the numbers in UFC? Go back and look at when Conor McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds, and you tell me this is the most pure cipher right here, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. So, yeah, that's the problem with gamblers, man. They get greedy. They do, man. That's the gambler's mentality. That's why the casino's rich. It's just like I witnessed something so amazing, and it was cool because the one time my lady and I went down to Vegas, we were watching the roulette wheel for the first time, and out of my mouth came Black 9. I said it, and that's exactly what hit, Black 9. And right after I said that, this guy walks up to the table and he put down so much on one spot, and I forget what number he put it on now, but I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, he's going with that much? I didn't even know how much it was. It was a lot of chips. I was like, that's a lot of money right there to risk on the roulette. I mean, what are the odds of that? It's like putting all your money down on the Super Bowl future blindly. And kind of a long shot, actually. And it hit. And I was like, holy shit, man. Like, I don't know how that guy just did that. And I saw the same guy like 8 hours later in the day in the same casino because it was where we were staying. And I said to him, I said, man, I saw that earlier today. That was impressive. I said, what are you going to do with all that? And he looked at me and he goes, I've already lost it all. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I mean, he had tens of thousands of dollars, that guy. I don't even know how much he had. He might have won $100,000 on that. And he blew it all the same day. I mean, if that happened for me, I'd be like, you know what? Successful vacation. I'm going home. I'm going to put a down payment on a house. I'm going to start a business, you know. So, but yeah, man, it's just, yeah, the gambling mentality, man. I realize what there needs to be is like a gambling crisis line for gamblers who just can't control themselves. I almost feel like I should start doing that. I mean, I'm helping people win, but at the same time, I'm like, God, some of these people just need like some behavior management, you know? You want all that money and you're just going to go blow it all in a few days? Because just chill out for a second. Relax a few seconds. Think about things. Wait till the good games come back. You don't have to win it all back today. Will I please look up the Nate Diaz fight coming up? Hold on. Let me look at the last Nate Diaz fight and see if you can figure out how to look it up. I think I got something right here. Whoops, I got to spell his name right. UFC 241. Let's see. Okay, so let's go back and look at the last Nate Diaz fight. I think it was against Anthony Pettis. Is this right? Is this the right fight? All right, so hold on. I think this was the fight. Okay, so we saw that Pettis could fall to 22-9 against Diaz on the 229th day of the year, right? He could fall to 22-9 on the 229th day of the year. But man, how do you script UFC, man? How do you script a UFC fight? Dude, they couldn't script it any better with the same tactics from 200 years ago. Some of you guys really need to read a history book somewhere. I mean, to not know that fighting's been scripted since the 1800s and probably really for the last thousands of years is just like, come on, man. Have you ever heard that phrase, I wasn't born yesterday? Because you can't use it. So, this guy's nickname was Showtime. It doesn't show up here, but if you use the rule for H, which is the 19th letter in reverse, it's 50. That's why I have it written down here in the notes. Again, he could fall to 22-9 on the 229th day of the year. That's the 50th prime to go with his nickname. But hold on, there was more to this. I forget, this is a while back, so I had to go back and look it up. Oh, yeah. His last loss, this guy who fell to 22-9 on the 229th day of the year, his last loss was at UFC 229, right? So his last loss, UFC 229. Now he's fighting on the 229th day of the year. He can fall to 22-9. His next loss was number 9. Nate equals 23. Diaz equals 23. 23 is the 9th prime. See what they're doing here? And this is sometimes there's things to consider. Pettis, the riddle for Pettis, which didn't look nearly as good, as he could have picked up his 23rd career win, and of course Nate and Diaz are 23. But that 229 thing was really standing out. And let's see. Diaz was the underdog too, so Diaz was the better payout. I thought I had something else about Diaz. Maybe I just talked about it and didn't write it down. I thought there was something really special about the day Diaz was fighting on in light of his return, because he'd been gone for a minute. What was it? Yeah, maybe I just talked about it. I'll have to go back and watch my own video. I know there was something about Nate Diaz's last fight before this, because he'd been gone for a minute. Huh. Thought that would be here. Oh, never mind. It's right there. He returned on the day, leaving 136 days left in the year, and Nate Diaz also equals 136. And again, sports are the way that you can see that these are the 4 base ciphers, just because of the way they're used. So, you know, Nate Diaz, you see how it has that double 23 connection? And then Nate Diaz, 136. He wins on the day, leaving 136 days left in the year. I mean, things like that are usually a good sign. That's like why when I got screwed over in those hockey games, it's like, really? None of these 3 games are going to come through? Seriously? So. Okay, Nick. So that's Nick. I like Nick's question better this time. So he says, okay, obviously these athletes know they're playing as an actor for their sport, but do you think they're aware of the Kabbalah and ritualistic aspect of their career? They don't have to be aware of that. If they're just following orders, like if the Kabbalist is their boss and the Kabbalist is scripting things this way, they don't have to explain it to the athlete why they're doing things this way. They're just taking orders. Tonight you're going to win in the third round. We want you to do it with the whatever chokehold. And if you decode the names, that's if you guys just do what I teach you and decode the winning moves for these fights, which you can get big pays on, because on these real-time betting they'll say like if the fight ends with this submission, and you look at that submission equals 56, and let's say that somebody was, let's say the date numerology is 56. Or let's say the name of the submission was like the submission hold was 24 and somebody was going for their 24th win on a 24 date numerology and there was a prop bet, that it paid 6-1 if the fight ends with this chokehold. That's how people win big on my picks. And again, it's like this. So the trolls fill up everything here, so that's what the first guy who commented that when the Braves won today on the comeback, which I like the Braves today, this guy right here, Parker Williams. He says, my effing boy just won $2,000 betting on them in the last inning, checking your impeccable decode. The last second. So he got in the prop bet on the comeback, and I don't know how much he bet. He must have had to bet a good amount to win $2,000, but like if it was 10-1 for the comeback, and he's like, fuck it, I really like Zach's decode on why the Braves should win today, and they did. This is how people win big on the prop bets. I mean, I don't know. I imagine he probably bet at least $100 or $200, but this is what people are doing who are winning big here. Sometimes they're laying it down on a risk with a great prop bet. And, I imagine that Parker Williams, to put $200 down on the prop bet, he's probably saved up some allowance money. So, anyway. Yeah, you guys see, what's not fair to me is what I have done for several years straight. Because Google's continued to delete my channels and take down my work, the track record, I mean, people who followed know the truth. But for new people who come around, they're like, well, I don't see your videos calling all those championships. Yeah, that's because Google has deleted my channel 18 fucking times. So that's the reality. Somebody said, do they really kill these celebrities by the numbers? Well, it looks like in some cases they do. I mean, I don't think too many 84-year-olds are faking their death. I don't think Bill Bidwell at... how old was Bill Bidwell? How old was Bill Bidwell when he just died? I mean, I don't think that... I don't know why Bill Bidwell would fake his death. 88. And again, nobody's going to question the death of an 88-year-old. But if you missed my work on it, right here, let's just do it. Where's Bill's death? I mean, do you think this is an accident? He was the owner of the Cardinals. He moved the team to St. Louis from Chicago. Well, his family did. The Cardinals used to be in Chicago, then St. Louis, like the baseball team, and now they're the Arizona Cardinals. He died 63 days after his birthday. Cardinals is 63. His full name equals 115, like St. Louis. It's the year of the 115th World Series. He died at age 88. St. Louis Cardinals equals 88. They would go on to win their game the next day. Cardinals, baseball, Major League Baseball, all 162. He died on October 2nd, the first day of the National Hockey League season. National Hockey League 102, Coyotes 102. Have to keep an eye on them this year. And yeah, I mean, these kind of rituals go on every single year, owner after owner. We this year we called the first game of the NFL season correct off the death of Pat Bowlen. Pat Bowlen's death was synced up with the Hall of Fame game, which the Broncos won. It was a tribute to Super Bowl 33. The Broncos won with 34 points over the Atlanta Falcons. It's all synced up, just like how the Broncos just got their first win today 100 days after Elway's birthday. And also 115 days, now that I think about it, after the death of Pat Bowlen, which is weird. Broncos and Cardinals, they both get their first wins today. Deaths of owners. Same stuff year after year. And why they do it, it must be some sort of like dark, sick magic, ritual, magic with a K, energy transference. I don't know why they need to do it. They do it like they need to. They do it every year like clockwork. Sometimes I think that some of these older people are willing participants. I think they believe in like reincarnation or transferring of soul or, I don't know what they're all into. A lot of these super rich elite, they are the biggest occultists of our world. What's the quote about how millionaires don't use numerology, billionaires do? Look at who owns the sports leagues. I'll tell you who sleeps on this knowledge in 2019. Chumps, the bottom of the bottom dwellers. Dead brains, losers, morons, idiots. The same people who think pro sports aren't rigged. That's the problem. You have to be so fucking dumb to not see that sports are rigged. Literally, you have to be fucking brain dead. You have to be fucking retarded, flatline. So, did you see the Redskins touchdown today? Did you see how that touchdown happened? And the announcer's like, "Oh, some missed tackles. Some missed tackles? What the fuck? Those weren't even tackle attempts. If you're keeping your arms tucked in like you don't have arms, like you're a triceratops, or is that even the right type of dinosaur? If you're a velociraptor, you're not trying to tackle the player. If you got your arms tucked into your chest and you bump into the runner, that's not called a broken tackle or even a tackle attempt. The NFL is just such a gimmick. Remember, August 11th wasn't about the Golden Gate Bridge, though. See, that's what it came into. But you guys forgot what the thing about August 11th was from the beginning. Temple Mount, where people called it numerous times and always said, if anything goes down August 11th, it'll be at Temple Mount. And that's exactly where it went down, as well as Hong Kong and everything else. That was a crazy day. Crown Diamond says, this needs to stop. Let's rise up. I agree. But I can't get people to rise up so far. I don't know why not. They just like the show too much. They're too invested in the Matrix. They're like the character in the Matrix who wants to go back. He wants to taste the juicy steak. So... half the quarterbacks are trannies. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think they'd be able to throw the ball as far as they do. If you realize that's the real talent to be in the NFL, you got to have a cannon arm, because look at what the majority of big offensive gains are in the NFL. Pass interference. You don't have to be deadly accurate. You just got to be able to laser the ball down the field. You got to have the 70, 80-yard arm. They're not doing any more Jeff Garcias. Jeff Garcia used to kill me for the 49ers. I was like, how's that guy in the NFL? He can't even throw the ball 40 yards down the field. So, he had some nice accuracy, but he had no arm, Jeff Garcia. He was the sort of gay quarterback that played for 49ers. I think that was an inside joke, too. Real feminine guy in San Francisco. Just when you guys said all the QBs are trannies, I thought of Jeff Garcia. I don't know that he was a tranny, but he didn't have much of an arm. So... I don't think women can throw a football, 60, 80 yards, even if they're on all the testosterone in the world. Maybe there's some women out there that could prove me wrong, but I got a good arm. I can't throw a football 60 yards. So... those of you guys asking me for sports information, sign up for the Patreon page. I kind of think it's like, why do you guys not get what I'm doing yet? I told you, I'm trying to build this movement. I'm putting out valuable knowledge. If you can't sign up for $5 a month, I don't really respect you. I'm thinking like, God, you want information to make bets, but you can't give me $5 a month for the information I'm putting out? Sorry, I don't want to talk to you. So. And for people who think that's shitty of me, I put it out for free for over 5 years. You guys didn't help pay my bills. You guys didn't help fix my Christmas Eve when I had a car crash through my house after I was threatened. I ended up having to pay a whole bunch of money out of my own pocket and live with a hole in my house for 5 months just to get the thing fixed. Caller?
Hey, Zach. How's it going, man?
What's up, man? Good job, Michael. Michael was big on that Colts upset.
I was, and you know what? I was going to bet big on it, and I didn't. I just kind of laid off of it.
Well, trust your guns, man. You were the first person to call that thing.
And because they became 10-5. What was it at Kansas City? And it was, I think Indianapolis Colts is 105 to 105.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I was like, man, I should have bet on it, and I didn't do it.
Well, there'll be plenty more opportunities. That's the good news.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's all I was just calling in for. That's all I had.
All right.
So,
all right. Good work, Michael. Take care, man.
Yeah, you too, Zach.
All right. See you.
See.
Gary gives $20 a month. Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, the whole Kaepernick thing's all news by the numbers. The whole thing's a joke. He's making more money off endorsements now than he'd even make in the NFL anyway. Yeah, a lot of idiots said that the car crashing into my house was a hoax. It's like, how can it be a hoax? I'm showing you the fucking video of the hole in my house and the torn up property. How's this a hoax? Some idiot thinks because I have green guard in the wall, which almost every home does in the Pacific Northwest because of all the moisture, that means I'm a Freemason. These were the videos these morons were putting out. My house is torn apart from the side. You can see the siding insulation on the inside that says green guard. And people are like, "Oh, look at that green guard with that capital G at the front. He's a Freemason." It's like, God, these people are fucking retarded. Pretty much every home in the Pacific Northwest has green guard, siding insulation, and if a car crashed through the whole everyone's house in the neighborhood, you'd have to say that everyone's a Freemason because they all have green guard, in between their walls where nobody sees it unless your house gets torn apart by a storm or someone crashing through it. I mean, some of these people in the truth community are absolutely shit for brains. So, Richie from Boston made about 5 videos about how it was a hoax. And I even posted my address online. And then that fucking loser paid for subscribers to get his channel from 10,000 to where it is now. Nick K, now I know Nick K's new here, the man with 1,000 questions. Nick K here, let me go through the list of shit that's happened to me. November 8th, 2014. I had a car, a black SUV, like a government vehicle, fuck with me on a residential road on a one-way street each direction, 25 miles per hour. It came flying in front of me and roasted its brakes in front of me, and I didn't know what to think at first. I thought I was kind of in a wealthier neighborhood where I was driving. I was going to see somebody I knew, and I thought maybe it was some rich kid with their parents' SUV. And when they roasted their brakes and stopped in front of me after they passed me on this 25 mile per hour road, probably going, 70 miles per hour. I tried to pass them because they just stayed parked in the road, and then they started to drive forward again, and then they stopped again so that I couldn't get by in the lane. So when I tried to pass them again, they drove ahead, and they drove to where I was going, and they parked in front of the house where I was going to, and left the engine idling. So I was like, what in the world? Is this the person I'm going to fucking with me? But then I just waited, and they didn't get out of the car, and they just kept their car idling. So I called the person whose house I was going to, and I said, hey, look out your window. You see this car in front of here? I said, do you know these people? And they didn't know who it was. I said, well, don't come out here. I said, somehow this person just started messing with me on the road, and somehow they knew I was coming over to your house. And Now they're just sitting here. And I was like, just stay inside. I said, I'm going to walk up to your front door, and if anything happens, I said, just stay inside. So anyway, I went inside, went over to the person's house who I was going to visit, hung out there for a little bit. And when I left, the car was still idling out front. And when I walked out of the house and started to walk to my car, the SUV just peeled out and drove out of the neighborhood. And I was like, that's fucking weird. I was like, what is this? Is this government? How did they know where I was going? So I go back to my house, and when I get back to my house, on the side of my old house, if you ever look at the video of where the car wrecked through it, there was an RV pad there. I didn't have an RV, but old people lived there before they had an RV. And there's a double wide gate that you have to open up to park the RV there. Now, I never opened up that gate, and it had poles that latched into the ground. So when I got home, somebody opened up both sides of the gate. And this has never happened before. I never opened this gate. So I was like, somebody's been here. And there was a microwave plugged into the side of the house, and it freaked me out. I was like, oh my God, is that like a fucking bomb? Like, what is going on? So I called up my other buddy who lived close to where I was, and I said, hey, dude, something weird's going on. I said, I just had this weird incident with a car that somehow knew where I was driving to, and now I get home and my gate's propped open, and there's a fucking microwave plugged into the side of the house, and it was like an old microwave that looked like they got at the Goodwill or something. And so he's like, well, you want me to come over there? And it was pretty late at night when this was going on. So I said, no. I said, just stay on the phone with me while I walk around my house. I just said, if you hear anything happen to me, just know that something's up. So I walked around the house. Everything looked secure. And I said, just stay on the phone. I said, I'm going to go inside the house and see if anything looks off. And so I went inside the house. And everything looked cool. Nothing was out of place. I mean, everything of value was there. So I was like, So he's like, so what are you going to do about the microwave? I was like, well, I don't really want to call the police because I have a feeling that the people who just fuck with me were either the police or feds. And so I said, just stay on the phone. I said, I'm going to open the microwave, man. I said, if the phone goes silent, you know what happened. But I said, I got to see what's going on in here. So I opened up the microwave, and there was nothing. And I was like, okay, so these people are fucking with me. And 7 days later, the next Saturday, which was November 15, 2014, I was gone from about 1:30 in the morning till about 7 a.m. And when I came home, my door was kicked in. My whole house was turned upside down. Everything was dumped out of my house. Every drawer, freezer, fridge, everything. Everything was turned over. A business was sabotaged. A whole lot of shit was stolen. Everything of value, too much to admit, a safe was taken. And what had been going on in the months up to that is the undercover police officer for the Bothell, Washington Police Department, which is right across the street from the Masonic Lodge, he'd just been sitting there parked outside my house in hours, in shifts, day after day. And the day after my house got hit, he never parked there anymore. And I realized he'd been getting my schedule down and just like what I was up to. And it was just so obvious. Just recently I'd investigated the local high school shooting in October in Washington just before the, election and voting time. And that was the Marysville-Pilchuck High School shooting. And it was just obvious. It was so obvious what had happened. And in between that, getting crazy letters in the mail. So all that shit happened. Ended up having, a whole bunch of losers online like Richie from Boston and Checkerboard Mask Face and Russian Vids and, so many of these other tools out here, constantly harass and slander and make up shit. And, I got threatened for Christmas Eve and a car crashed through the house and I had to fight insurance. My house didn't get fixed until the end of May. I had a giant hole in my house, which patched up with plywood after a few days, from Christmas Eve until the end of May. And I had to fight with insurance to get them to cover anything. And I still ended up spending, over 10 grand plus just countless time and energy to get the insurance to cover a fair they should have covered the whole fucking thing. It's like, what do you even have house insurance for? I mean, a person crashes through your house on Christmas Eve and you can hardly get the insurance to pay for the damage. I mean, it's just a joke. But I did end up getting them to pay for the majority, but I still had to pay a ton. And, you consider I'm doing this work, I'm not making an income, I'm working my ass off for free, and then I'm having to deal with shit like this too. So all that stuff's happened. Last August, I had the FBI show up at my house and accuse me of something I've never done. August 21st, 2018. For those of you who are new around here, people are saying, oh, I bet that's bullshit. I called the FBI agent and just even did a live stream letting the FBI agent explain why they came over. And so anyway, yeah, I've been through a lot of shit, man. I had my house vandalized this spring, early summer, where I live now. Somebody came here and fucked with my house. So, and if you've ever been on my Patreon page, look at the trolling I have to go through. That's been going on. It's been going on for 5 years straight, nonstop trolling. That's aggravating. If I didn't have a pack of trolls that just live on my Patreon 24/7, 365, talking shit all day, I could have a more successful Patreon page and the ability to communicate and express information. But you can't do that on my Patreon page because the trolls own it. There's no way to get rid of trolls on Patreon. If you ban somebody, they get a full refund and they can sign right back up. It's like, oh, good job, Patreon. Good job. Encourage trolling. Do nothing about it. And make it hard to block. Like on Patreon, there's no way to take away somebody's comment privilege. That's a joke. It's a joke. And let's not forget who runs Patreon. But anyway, yeah, I've had to deal with a whole lot of shit, man. I guarantee you, almost everybody else would have quit a long time ago. So I'm sure there's shit in that list I'm forgetting that I've had to deal with. So Dave, you must be a troll. Did I say things are great now? I have to deal with trolling 24/7, 365, who are probably feds. Honestly. I know the feds have had the watchful eye on this work for some period of time. Because nobody else is putting out information like this showing how the whole cabal operates. And the reason it hasn't gone viral and the reason hundreds of millions of people don't know about this is because humanity isn't up for it. Humanity's fucking pathetic at the moment. And I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to help be a catalyst to change that. Yeah, and the big tech companies are the federal government anyway. It's all the same. They're the ones that are building the surveillance state. All the big tech companies have all their big money from government contracts to build their surveillance equipment. Most people think Amazon's a company that sells stuff. Yeah, they do that, but that's not where the majority of their money comes from. The majority of their money comes from contracts for the surveillance state that they help build and preserve. Somebody says I collect $11,000 a month from Patreon. That's only recently. And the thing is, so what's your point? The reason I collect that much is because I help that many people. It's synergy, man. A lot of people on my Patreon are making more than I am off the knowledge I'm putting out. So that's called a good value. That's called a fair trade-off. Nobody feels like they're getting shortchanged on my Patreon page. Maybe, in the beginning I said, 1 out of 6 people don't make it. They might feel that way, but that was really because they were too dumb. They were too dumb to see the value. It's not my fault. Yeah, what Mr. Randall John wrote is probably true, man. But you can't be as scared of that. You got to fight back. If the feds are watching us, fuck them. Let them know they got some opposition. And I probably am pissing them off because I do make them work late hours and around the clock. It seems that their jobs that they have to troll every single thing I do. Since I work around the clock 7 days a week, so do they. Signed up for the wrong shift. They're on the wrong side of history. So on top of the world, I did work for free. I worked for free for over 5 years. Do you know anybody in the history of the world who worked for free for over 5 years, 7 days a week? I don't know anybody else in that club. I'm an exclusive company in that one. Anybody else who worked for 5 years for free and helped a lot of people win a lot of money in that time? Yeah, get back to me. I know the answer is no already, unless you're a troll. I think Rich is fine, man. Rich seems like his old self. I know he went through surgery, but I think he's a tough guy. I think he's fine. All right. I appreciate the nice comments in the chat. All right. Yeah, I appreciate the compliments, you guys. I think I'm going to end this live stream and do another one. Everyone's asking me to talk about November 3rd in Seattle. And again, at the beginning of the year, I said Seattle is a curious city. It's one of the only cities in the world that sums to 19 like chaos. And it's 2019. But I don't know. I just don't know about all this hype for November 3rd. What I really don't like about the hype for Seattle in November 3rd is how fear-mongering it is. Like, I mean, the guy says that thousands of people could burn to death in Seattle. That's not going to happen. No one knows the future, but I know that's not going to happen, man. That's not the way the New World Order rolls. Not in America. Yeah, I saw Roseanne Barr on Rogan talking about numbers and Joe Rogan doing his stupid faces. You know what I would like for my people to do is just slam Joe Rogan's Twitter every single day to get me on there because he got my latest channel deleted. If everybody just spam that he owes me being on his show because, you know, fair comments to him got my channel deleted. I just wonder if we could possibly get a window in there. You know, Joe Rogan, since he talks so big about how people like myself have mental illness and stuff, I would love to be on his show and defend all the people like myself who he says have mental illness. I'd like to see how I do against Joe Rogan because I know I would hand his ass to him. You know, it would be destruction. And same with Colin Cowherd, too, because Colin Cowherd keeps making, in the sports world, keeps making comments about these online conspiracy theories about sports that are nonsense. Okay, let's debate then, Colin Cowherd, big man on TV. Let's debate about if the games are rigged or not. Let's watch the tape on the Redskins' long touchdown today where the Patriots all turned into dinosaurs. Their arms were all tucked in like the T-Rex. Let's talk about it. So, well, Joe Rogan didn't exactly get the channel deleted, but what I'm saying is the video that they took the channel down for was a video I made addressing him and Alex Jones calling people like myself mentally ill. And if you watch that video, it was a really fair video. I didn't call anyone names or cuss or anything. I just did a presentation of what they were saying is mental ill is bullshit. And here's why people like myself, who argue the things that we do, from sports being rigged to the shootings being by the numbers, are well supported in evidence. So, perfectly fine video that I made, but my channel was taken down for this video on this subject. I mean, that's bullshit. I can't defend myself from being called mentally ill by Joe Rogan. So that's why I feel like Joe Rogan should say, you know what? That guy's had his channel deleted 18 times. I did call people like him mentally ill. Let me debate him on my show and just prove to my audience what a fucking genius I am, because, you know, that's who Joe Rogan's audience is, right? They think he's so fucking smart. He's just the smartest guy there ever was. The guy who got famous by paying people to eat cockroaches. The guy whose original podcast always started with an advertisement for a penis pump. Oh yeah, dude, my dick's way bigger with the penis pump. Should buy one of these. Buy a fleshlight. It's perfect to jerk off into. It's like, I mean, this is how Joe Rogan got famous. Is this what Gematria is missing? Do I need to begin my Gematria steams with the fleshlight to jerk off into and the penis pump and some Blue Chew? Oh shit, all of a sudden I have 10 million viewers. I just need to talk more about jerking off. So, hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, I really appreciate Sam Tripoli for for having me on his show. That helped a lot of people find this work. And I have a feeling that Sam Tripoli's subscriber numbers are bullshit. They've taken a big jump recently. His numbers have really climbed. He's climbed like 30,000 subscribers in a short period of time, and it keeps going up. But I have a feeling that even when his subscriber number was lower, it was bullshit. I think it was really a lot higher than it was, because a whole ton of new people came to my work after doing his podcast. And at the time, it said he had half as many subscribers as me, which I just don't believe. So... Well, most people are retarded, man. That's why they do take Joe Rogan seriously. Make a video with the fleshlight. That might be what it takes to get Joe Rogan on. What's funny is there's actually an episode of Joe Rogan and Sam Tripoli that begins with one of the fleshlight advertisements. Sam Tripoli's something else. People always say, I think Sam Tripoli's a shill too. You know, say what you will about that guy. He's kind of a crazy dude, but I mean, he has a lot of likable qualities. And I don't think he's a shill. I think he believes in a lot of bullshit, honestly, but so do a lot of other people. But I don't get the shill vibe from him, and I think he's fair about most things. So I did see he got some. I did see he just got it on TV though. I mean, I realize that he rolls with celebrities and stuff, but I don't know, man. I don't think he's done like the initiation rituals that some of these other people have, like Joe Rogan, for example. Yeah, see, just everybody has a different opinion. People say they like him. Some people say he is a shill. I mean, people think I'm a shill. If you think I'm a shill, you're wrong. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable that people think I'm a shill. As much work, as hard as I've worked, I mean, what shill works like the way I do and puts out good information that's valuable and helps people out and is verified? And, you know, it's just like people who think I'm a shill are in that camp of dumb people. People who think I'm an asshole, I don't disagree with them, but to think I'm a shill, you know, really bad judgment. Yeah, Sam Tripoli does do a lot of drugs, but I mean, he still is what he is, and ultimately I think he's a net positive in the world, so... Victoria says she's 100 pages into the book and it's everything she's ever looked for. Thanks, Victoria. I tried to write the first 100 pages like that because, I mean, it really gives you a whole lot more information that you really need to have in this world. So... Yeah, Dr. Savage84 actually made a couple videos about me saying I was a shill, but then he came back around. And the reason he thought I was a shill is because I put my thumb and pointer finger together while I was talking, you know, at like 2 times just barely in a clip that's me talking for like an hour. And again, that's where being paranoid too much can really hurt you. You know, people signaling 666 with their fingers is something that's going on, but a lot of people when they're talking will touch their pointer fingers and their thumb just like out of instinct. And maybe you even do it and you don't even pay attention, you know, because you're not recording yourself and you're not watching yourself on a video screen. I've never rehearsed, you know, so if I'm talking for an hour and there's 5 seconds of video where in those times I touched my pointer finger and thumb together, I mean, and people have done that to me over the years. They're like, oh, look at where Zach, it's like I got 3,000 videos and in one I do it, and they're like, oh, there's the evidence he's Illuminati. It's like, oh my God, you think I'm in the Illuminati? Have you seen my video production skills? Have you seen my channels getting censored? I mean, give me a break. Here, if I'm going to sit on here and talk to you guys for a while, I should have put the video camera on. Somebody said, am I real? What do you think? Do I look real? There's a guy in the world that says that this isn't a real person. This is an artificial intelligence, which is also very false. So, and also it's you can verify that I'm real. There's people who've met me in person. Several people who found me online, and they were in Washington State, and they're like, "Hey, I think I'm somewhere in your neck of the woods. Can I come meet you for lunch?" Okay, as long as you don't give me the heebie-jeebies over the phone, So. I gotta put this somewhere else. It's blocking the chat. How about right here? Jordan Maxwell, he put out some good information. He's got that great thing with Kennedy and Lincoln. Nick says I saved him from political insanity. And that's exactly what I try to do with my work, to help people get out of these matrices that steal their energy. Politics, sports. That's the thing, though. If you use this knowledge to gamble on sports, it kind of sucks you back into that matrix. And it also gives you the stress and anxiety because you want to win. And a lot of games in sports are very close. Like the people who bet on the Braves today, because I like the Braves, they were freaking out until they won in the 9th inning. So, anyway, but the point of this knowledge is to help people escape the matrix and also to wake up enough people to end the agenda. I mean, that's my whole thing. I want to stand on the ashes of Washington, D.C., So, all this stuff needs to get torn down to the ground. I want to see stadiums filled up with people that are actually, not getting ripped off at the gate and who are actually there to watch a real competition. I want to take the NFL and change it into, here's the new rules for the NFL. To play for a city, you have to either be from that state or from that region. If, like say you're born in Montana, they don't have an NFL team, so you could play for the Seattle Seahawks or maybe the Minnesota Vikings, because those would be like close teams, you know what I mean? I think that's the way pro sports should be. If you represent a city, then the people that play for that team, they should have something to do with that city. Otherwise, what's the team really got to do with that city? I want to know what city has the best basketball players. I want to know what region really has the best football players, baseball players. That would be cool. That would be cool. And, I mean, to go to a professional sports game, it shouldn't cost you your whole week's income. You want to take your family to... Okay, imagine that you work for $15 an hour and you work 40 hours a week, $600. You can't take your family to the game for that much. It's going to cost you more than that probably. You got to work the whole week just to take your family to the game? That's a joke. And it's a fucking rigged game. A stadium, let's think about it. These stadiums, well, some of these college stadiums hold upwards of 100,000 people. Imagine if everybody paid $5 at the gate to watch the game. So $500,000 comes in. Okay, it costs $50 to sit in the front row. It costs $5 for the nosebleed. Something like this, something that's reasonable. So if you're charging more than $5 and you have 100,000 seats, you could be making over $1 million again. And really, they're making way more than this, right? They're making way more than this. But I'm just saying, imagine if you brought in $1 million for a game. Shouldn't that be enough money to pay everybody on the field and everybody who worked the concession stands and all the booths? Like, more than an ample amount? And everyone would be doing well. But it's just like so much greed. Because they realize they can do it to the populace. I think about that every week. Like, how much money is sucked in through all the sports stadiums. And I just think, like, imagine if the American people said, you know what, this week? We're not going to go to the sports game. Thanks for the donation, Robert. I forgot I had super chats. Thanks, man. Your comment says, thank you for all your hard work and giving us truth seekers hope to keep pushing through this madness. You bring hope to many. Thank you. Appreciate it, friend. That's what I do it for. You guys give me hope, too, because when I first started telling everybody about this knowledge, they all dismissed me. But I was saying, if you could see all of the public money that's funneled into sports every single day, and you thought, like, even just for 1 week, if 1 week the American people said, you know what, none of us are going to the games, we're all going to put all of our money into creating a political party called End Federal Tyranny. Dude, I bet you could launch a pretty successful advertising campaign to get the word out about how the elections are rigged, how what we need to do this election cycle is not vote. Everybody needs to not vote because this is a lie, and then prove the lie. Prove the lie. Prove it. Just prove how long it's been going on for. Because we can. We have the evidence to do, the information to do so. That's the other thing. For the people who are always saying, like, Zach, you need to progress this even further. You're not progressing it far enough. It's like, okay, asshole, what are you doing besides complaining and telling me I need to do more? I realize this can go further, but it's already gone a long ways. We have more than enough evidence to show how rigged the system is. And, just imagine, man. Imagine the word getting out. Imagine you turn on fucking CNN, and on CNN it's like, in federal, of course they're not going to advertise it, right? But somehow you could get the word out there. You could buy up all the billboards in the nation. You could probably get YouTube to run the ad. You'd have so much money if you got all the people who didn't go to the sports game to put it into the party for the weekend. And I'm not even saying that's what needs to be done either. I mean, you could do so much in the world if you took all the money that funnels into those sports stadiums, which goes right up to those billionaires. That's why when people go, how can 100 people have more wealth than 95% of the American people? And a lot of you guys, I think you hear a stat like that and you just turn to the next page. It's like you didn't give that stat enough time. 100 people have more wealth than 90% of Americans. I think it's actually even more than that. I think it's like 98% of Americans. Might even be 99%. It's a true stat. 100 people in this country have almost as much wealth as everyone. And the reason it's possible is because of what goes on with things like sports. Not that many people own these sports teams. They're just sucking up everybody's money every week. Woo, the whole state of Georgia just gave me money today. Plus I own all the Pizza Huts and beer distribution companies and car dealerships everywhere you're going to shop at that I advertised today during the football game. I'm going to get that money too. That's how it is, man. Few people hold everything. And we just fall into their trap every week. And then people like myself come along and show it's all exposed. And then the 99% who are getting bent over, they're going, dude, what? You think sports are rigged? It's like, what? Do you know nothing of history? What, you think they can't do what they did 100 years ago, 200 years ago? I mean, so, yeah, I'll tell you what, if my time was being spent more on helping ignite the revolution, I think that would be a better investment of my time. But the problem is when I spend my time on that, not enough people care and nothing comes out of it, I show people how to gamble on sports and then resources come in. I need resources to get to where I want to be. I want to hire people. I want a studio. So far it's a long way off. My girl keeps telling me to change the price from $5 a month to $50 a month. She goes, then you'll have 10 times the revenue. And anyone who doesn't come back, well, they're idiots. I'm like, yeah, but 50 cents. I would do this for free if I could, but I can't get where I want to be for free. I tried to do that for 5 years. That didn't work. I can't keep doing the same thing. But if I did charge $50 a month and everyone stayed and paid $50 a month, it would be 10 times the revenue, and then I would be able to hire staff of people. So I'm going to try to figure out ways to entice people to do that in the future. Help build this movement so we can hire some staff. Supposedly one of my followers is homeless right now and needs help, but I don't trust that person. If I trusted that person, I probably would help them out right now. The reason I don't trust that person is because they talk with the trolls a lot and they talk shit a lot on the Patreon, and I'm just like, oh, so you want to talk shit for months? And again, I've been suspicious of that person the whole time because they do a lot of Gematria decoding and throw a whole bunch of shit together that doesn't make any sense, and it impresses some people. But and just now recently, saying they're homeless and they need help, but somehow they're online every day on all my live streams. I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. You can't be homeless and on all my live streams. I mean, if you're homeless, you're probably having trouble getting an internet connection. How are you paying for your smartphone? So anyway, I do want to build up a team and help people, but I also have to be careful about who pretends to be my friend. I already know how that goes. A few years ago, I built a website called All for Truth, and I trusted 2 young people around my age, and they fucked me. I found out that they weren't really down for the cause. They were down for setting me up to fuck me. That was their whole goal. So I get the same vibe from this guy who's claiming to be homeless and now saying that I'm not legit because I'm not helping him out. It's like, I don't even know if you're really homeless, man. I don't trust you one bit. So, wow, Marvin, thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. Marvin says, I thank you for your work and dedication to the truth. Big shout out to you. Awesome, man. Thank you. And for the people here who are younger, who really don't have $5, because of Marvin and because of Robert, the first 25 people who send an email to Gematria FX Sports that really want to read my book, GematriaFXSports@gmail.com. First 25 people who send an email, say, hey, I really want to read your book, but I honestly can't afford $5, which I don't know how that's possible unless you're a little kid and you don't have a credit card. First 25 people, I know I do have young people who follow me, I'll send you a book. First 25 people. So thank you so much. Let's see. Here, we got a caller. Caller?
Hello?
You're on. What's up?
Yeah, there's actually an update that I called weeks ago about the Rothschild situation. Hello?
I'm listening. Yeah, you said you called a few weeks ago about the Rothschild situation, so I'm listening.
Yeah, basically there's a Rothschild that committed suicide on the same day as Iris Goldsmith, on the same day that she died in the bicycle accident, the quad car Jeep accident.
I see. I'll look into that.
And it was July 8th.
July 8th. Okay, July 8th.
And also another thing, and there was a weird accident, automobile accident in Europe. A diplomat, U.S. diplomat smashed into and killed somebody in the street. Harry Dunn, killed a 19-year-old Harry Dunn in London, somewhere in England.
Okay.
The address of where it happened in England. And what's interesting is that is like there's some weird stuff going on because number 19 also the ways also the spelling of there's actually a Stephen King book that the lead character is named Harry Dunning that actually was a time traveler.
Okay. Okay, you know, are you posting this information anywhere?
No, not right now.
See, people like you need to start doing that because just passing it on to me, I'm already overloaded, right? So, you know, it's good observations, but people like you need to start producing the work too and connecting the things that you're seeing. So that's what I'm encouraging you to do.
Basically, and so some weird, and then also the conspiracy theories talking about Seattle and the conspiracy community, and so basically something's going to go off over there, some sort of not second 9/11. We really don't know, but also there's hello.
Yeah, I'm on. You're on, man.
Yeah. So basically,
all right, I'm gonna leave it there. You drop.
Just check.
I appreciate it. He gave us a lot of good information, but I don't know. In a way, it's also like, what's the point you're trying to make? Okay, this, are these things connected? He has no caller ID. Sometimes I just wonder about certain callers. It's like, okay, are you trying to be helpful or are you trying to make us look silly? But I don't like when people call in with no caller ID, honestly. I'm not someone who's going to harass you or keep your phone number. When you call in with unknown, because that's what the trolls do when they call in. So I'm always suspicious about people who call and block the number. So just got to be real. It's like if you think you have to block the number calling me, then yeah, okay. And don't keep calling going, hello? I mean, did you hear anybody hang up on you? I mean, we're right here, dude. All right. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to end this live stream, and I'm going to start a new one because I want to talk about the Seattle thing. I'm just getting bombarded with emails and phone calls and text messages and comments everywhere about the Seattle thing. I think I got cut off earlier. I want to go talk about how, yeah, something could happen that day, but all this fear about, you know, the whole city burning and all this, I mean, it's not going to happen. Too much fear-mongering. the way the New World Order rolls is not like that. They don't kill millions of people at once. So, anyway. I don't know if you want to write on YouTube to follow Hitler's steps. I see the point you're making, but I mean, comments like that honestly aren't helpful. You guys have to know like what age it's in. YouTube's taking down channels for comments that are left that propel hate speech. And, you know, it might not be fair to say that Hitler did hate speech, because if you've actually investigated Hitler, you might have realized that, you know, his speeches weren't all you've been told in your history books. So, anyway, it's a slippery slope this day and age on Google to talk about, but be careful what you write, because your comments, even though you might have a fair point, in the age of censorship, you could get a channel taken down. So, James 37 says we've helped him murder baseball, and baseball's a really hard sport to beat. You know, most people don't even mess with baseball, and I helped a lot of people make a lot of money on baseball. So, all right, I'm gonna come back on another live stream. Sit tight. I'll be right back. I just want to make it separate for the Seattle thing. Until next time.